So this video I'm going to talk about what I have found and believe, and in my experience, to be the biggest trigger for borderline personality disorder or BPD. In my experience, there is one thing that just spins them up. And it's a slippery slope emotionally with BPD. When they get triggered, there's a rapid winding up. They spin up. I call it spinning up just really, really fast. And the reason why I use spinning up is because I've had them describe it that way. One guy, for example, he described it as like, those coin vortexes you might see in the mall. And, they're just, I've seen them, they're really big. They can be really big. And you put a coin in it and you can watch it just, and when it gets to lower and lower, it just goes faster and faster and faster. And one guy with borderline, he described his emotions as being one of those coin vortexes, and that a coin represents emotion, and then there's like 20 coins going at once, spinning like that, right? And it's just overwhelming. And so the people that are typically in relationships or around those with borderline, they walk on eggshells. I hear this all the time. We walk on eggshells. We don't want to do anything that might trigger them and spin them up. And so, first of all, I think it's a bad goal to try and avoid their anger, because it ends up causing people to tiptoe around them, be dishonest with them, treat them cautiously. And I have generally found that they are far less angry, hostile, and volatile when I've just been matter of fact, honest with them. And my tip for that too is to keep your tone and your volume really calm and really even, like the way that I'm talking now. Just talk to them like, well, you asked, and so here's what it looks like to me. Like that. That's what I do. And it generally, for the most part, helps them feel like, at least in the moment, okay? The triggers, okay? The biggest BPD trigger that I have seen that sends them off and spinning almost every single time and without fail is making assumptions. Is when they make assumptions. When they're left with missing information, when they are left to fill in the blanks and jump to conclusions and make assumptions, when there's like, if they feel like they have to read between the lines, then it can really, really spin them out really bad. And one of the reasons behind that, by the way, is because the disorder feels like it has to pay attention and be aware and manage every single thing. They lack the ability to just set something aside, let it sit on the back burner, and come back to it later. They're unable to just set something down and come back to it later. Okay, if something comes into their field of emotional vision, so to speak, they feel completely compelled to just deal with it, and they can't take their eyes off of it. What I've learned is with borderline, they truly believe that if something comes into the field of vision that is a potential threat, problem, issue, it turns into a crisis, because it turn into something really horrible. And they just basically believe, they're afraid that if they take their attention off of it and set it aside and revisit it later, horrible things will happen. It'll be completely disastrous. And so they feel like they have to pay attention to all the things and deal with all the things and mentally manage all the things. And when there's assumptions, when there's missing information and they have to make assumptions and fill in the blanks, they fill it with the most horrible things imaginable. The more assumptions that they make, the worse they do. The more emotional they become, the more they just melt down, the more they're just in crisis. If you have a family member, maybe you're in a relationship, or even if you have a parent who has borderline, the worst thing that you can do if you're wanting to avoid triggers is leave a lot of open-ended information. Or like, for example, a lot of people will come to me and say, why does she get so upset when I don't respond to the text messages right away? I have to respond like right away, or otherwise she loses it, right? Why? What is that about? The reason is, if she sends you a text and you don't answer, 20 minutes goes by, she starts making assumptions. Why is he not, why is he or she not responding to me? And they never ever go, well, maybe they're in a meeting. Maybe they're just busy at work. Maybe their phone fell between the seats. Maybe their phone's battery is dead. They can never like draw these conclusions that would be like emotionally safe. It's always the worst possible conclusion, and that just sends them off, right? He's deliberately ignoring me. He's with somebody else. He's cheating on me, and so it's like you send a text. She sends you a text message. Maybe you don't see it. Half an hour, 45 minutes goes by, and you get another one that says, "You SOB, I can't believe you're cheating on me. I'm out of here." And you're like, "What? What happened?" Right? Making assumptions and filling in the blanks is one of the worst possible things for their disorder. So this is typically what happens too when communicating with them. They might ask you a question. For example, kind of going back to the text message thing. And it's what I've noticed too is they struggle to just ask in like a simple matter of fact way. They can't go be like, why did it take you so long to respond to my text? It's, why did it take you so long? You know, and you're like, whoa, right? Your stomach jumps into your throat. And then suddenly, you know, your mind is like searching for the best possible answer to avoid the most conflict. And you're stammering like, but she sees the and then she's making more assumptions, and then you're off to the races again. Again, I have found that the best practice has been to give straightforward, matter of fact answers. Okay, here's your tip of the day when it comes to borderline: be bland. Blandness is far less triggering, and that's why I was talking about the even keel tone and the low volume and kind of the monotone. Um, and I also make sure that I'm easy to read. Like I don't want just a complete flat monotone like that. Otherwise, they start making assumptions again. They don't know what you're feeling. If they can't tell what you're feeling, they start making assumptions. Okay, but at the end of all of this, it's not your job to manage their emotions. This information is not intended to help you soothe them, because you can. Go watch my video on don't try to soothe them. It's their job to learn to soothe themselves. But it's important to understand that the biggest trigger that is making assumptions. You know, my real goal here in providing this information on borderline here is that this disorder is massively misunderstood, and these people are massively misunderstood. And think about a time in your life when you felt extremely misunderstood, and what was that like? I know I've been there, and I hated it. It was lonely. It was awful. It was dark and lonely, and believe me when I say that borderline personality disorder is probably the most misunderstood mental illness out there. Some people are reluctant to call it a mental illness, but it definitely is. So that is the thing that I have found that triggers people with borderline. Okay, and understand that the reason, if they get really triggered, if they're very volatile and they fly off the handle, maybe stop and ask yourself, what assumptions were they left to make at this time, um, and is that a potential reason for all of the chaos? So thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff. Share it with someone that might think it's helpful and useful. And we'll see you next time.